one symptom of NFL fans is always that they tend to overreact after a game. So I'm going to try today to be tempered, but realistic. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, what we watched yesterday exposed some very glaring concerns for this team. And we're going to talk about those here over the course of the show today. But I think what I want to do is certainly discuss not only what transpired last night, but also big picture and looking ahead. So let me start, though, with a little bit of perspective. Last year, a year ago at this point, after week 2, remember where the Saints were. They needed really a miracle comeback to beat Houston. Will Lutz hits the walk-off field goal. Then they go on the road to L.A., and they get hammered by the Rams, and Drew Brees gets injured in the process. And we're all looking at this team at 1-1, Drew Brees injured, thinking, oh no, this is the scenario we all dreaded. And that team finished 13-3, won the division going away. New Orleans has not been 2-0 since 2013. Let me say that again. The New Orleans Saints have not started a season 2-0 since 2013. So it's hard for me to sit here today and unequivocally say they stink and the season's over. Because things looked much more bleak a year ago at this point. I could argue in 2018, when the Saints lost week 1 to Fitzmagic 48-40 in the Dome to the Bucs and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And that team went to the NFC Championship game, was 13-3, and won the division. 2017, Saints started 0-2. Do you remember that? They started the season at Minnesota. Sam Bradford was NFL Offensive Player of the Week after playing the Saints. A week later, at home against New England, Tom Brady, NFL Offensive Player of the Week after playing the Saints defense. That team won 11 games, went to the playoffs, made it to the divisional round, Minneapolis Miracle. My point is, we've seen the Saints have moments like this early in seasons, even a year ago, each of the last 3 years, and they've rebounded. They've hit their stride. Maybe the Saints are kind of like a fighter that starts slow. Some fighters take a few rounds to get their timing, to kind of work themselves into a lather, and then they hit their stride. Maybe that's what this Saints team is right now. And maybe part of that's exacerbated by the fact that they had a modified offseason, etc. The thing that's so disappointing about the loss is, especially in this year, where the Saints' ambition is Super Bowl or bust, everyone is saying that, we know it. When your ambition is Super Bowl or bust, we can all agree that if the road to the Super Bowl goes in the NFC, goes through New Orleans, the advantage is to New Orleans. And when I look at the number 1 seed this year, understanding that's the only team that's getting a bye, it's even more important to get that 1 seed. And to do that, you got to win the games you're supposed to win. And the Saints were supposed to win that game last night on the road against the Raiders, and they didn't. So this happens. This happens in the NFL every year. Do you remember a year ago? The Saints, coming off their bye a year ago, are playing Atlanta in the Dome. And Atlanta was not a good team a year ago. And the Saints got absolutely strangled by Atlanta in the Dome coming off their bye. We talked about how good the Saints under Sean Payton had been coming off the bye. Saints lost 26-9, listless, lifeless, awful a year ago against Atlanta. I mean, a game like that could cost you the 1 seed. That costs you home field advantage in the playoffs. That's why what happened last night was so significant. Some observations from the game. And I'll give you 3 plays from the first half that I think completely changed the complexion of the game. 1, opening drive of the ball game. The Saints were methodical. They're going right down the field on that Raiders defense. They get a 3rd and 3 from the Raider 13. Drew Brees throws over the middle to Traquan Smith. He drops it. Yes, he got hit, but you're an NFL receiver. You're a 3rd-round draft pick that everyone has been waiting to ascend, and now the pressure is even greater with no Michael Thomas, and you choked. You choked in that moment. Saints settle for a field goal. That's a 4-point swing. Catch that ball, you're 1st and goal inside the 5. Instead, he drops it, and the Saints settle for a field goal. 4-point swing. The second I'd give you on the Raiders' first scoring drive, Marshawn Lattimore missed a tackle in the left flat on 3rd and 10, where Brian Edwards, former South Carolina prospect, caught the ball in the left flat. I don't know if Lattimore was trying to jump the route, what he was doing, but it's 3rd and 10. Let him catch and tackle, push him out of bounds. Lattimore missed it. Edwards goes up the sideline for 20 yards. Las Vegas ends up scoring a touchdown on that drive. 7-point swing right there. Even if you stop them there, they have to attempt a 50-some-odd yard field goal. No gimme. But so let's give them the 3 points and call it a 4-point swing right there. And then Drew Brees' interception before half. I mean, even if the Saints don't come away with points, you gifted them 3 at the end of the half. Those are winning plays that you have to make to win the game, especially on the road in the NFL. And the Saints didn't make them, and that's disappointing. I know everyone's talking about Drew Brees. The thing about pushing the ball down the field that everyone's talking about today, like his air yards and everything are the lowest in the NFL, like how far the ball travels in the air on his attempts, I don't care because that's not been a part of the Saints offense really since Devery Henderson. I mean, I know they had Ted Ginn and they would push the ball downfield at times, but let's get real, man. It's not like this has been an air-it-out offense. I mean, Brees dinks and dunks, and he just surgically tears you apart because he's so accurate. That's been the bigger problem for me. And there was a play last night in the 3rd quarter after Richard fumbled around midfield where Drew Brees had Josh Hill. And I'm not going to say that he was wide open, but Josh Hill, middle of the field, running across toward the left flat, and he had a linebacker on him, but he was open. And that's a throw we've seen Brees make so many times throughout his career, and he just missed him. And that's the kind of thing. Last night I'm watching that game, and I thought, ooh. Because that's the kind of play Drew Brees has always made throughout his Hall of Fame career and made a year ago when he completed 74% of his passes to set an NFL record. And if you're not going to stretch a defense, that's the throw you have to make this offense work. Offensive line was better. Remember, against Tampa, 11 tackles for loss and a sack last night. Not a single tackle for loss from the Raiders. Not a single sack allowed. Brees was hit 7 times, but they were better last night. Sean Payton, though, refuses to commit to the run, but that's Sean. That's what he's been for as long as he's been here. Only 19 rush attempts, 38 pass attempts last night. When you're trying to give your defense a rest, balance, running the ball. We talk about it all the time, but Sean isn't that guy. He's the same guy that'll throw a challenge flag late in the game on a clear reception, cost himself a timeout because he's acting like a pissed off teenager. Wouldn't you love to have had that timeout late in the ball game? But that's Sean. And I always say it, you take the good with the bad with Sean. That bravado, that attitude, whatever that is that causes him to foolishly throw that challenge flag, that's the same thing that's lent the Saints so many benefits throughout the years. Running a trick play late in the game week 1 to ice it against Tampa, right? I mean, that's the same. Wherever that feeling is in his body, whatever gene that is, it's the same thing. And you take the good with the bad. The penalties, 10 for 129 yards, are brutal. Most of them, I think, were really good calls. I hate some of the rules. The 15-yarder on Trey Hendrickson for hitting Carr in the face. It's just, what are you going to do, man? That's the rule. It's a stupid rule, but it's the rule. Cam Jordan's horse collar I thought was awful. He let up. That should not have been a flag. Did not take the ball carrier to the ground with the horse collar. He got his hand in there and then took it out. I hated the Emmanuel Sanders blindside block. That's the new rule. I don't know what do you want people to do? Like box out like a basketball player? I mean, what are you supposed to do to prevent that guy from coming to make a play. It's an impossible situation. I hate it. The defensive pass interference at the end of the game on Jenkins was probably a good call, but I hate that that's a strategy in the NFL where John Gruden knows we're probably not going to complete this pass. It's a low percentage pass, but we're probably going to be able to draw a flag, and that's crappy. That's not how the game. That's not how I want to see the game won or lost. I want to see players making plays, not putting into the hands of an official on a subjective call, but that's really what that came down to. But that's not what won or lost the game for New Orleans. There's a lot of bad. There's good. I mentioned the offensive line was better. Alvin Kamara has been electric through a couple of weeks so far. Trey Hendrickson has been such a nice surprise on the defensive line. I shouldn't even call it a surprise because he's been a really good player, but his relative dominance has been a surprise, maybe even outshining Cam Jordan a bit so far through 2 games. But I'll remind you of this as the Saints head to Week 3. I referenced last year where the Saints, Week 2, on the road, lost to the Rams. They had lost Drew Brees to injury. Knew he was going to be out for a while, 5 weeks, whatever it was going to be. We didn't know at the time how long it was going to be. And things looked bleak, and they had to go on the road to play Seattle. That looked like a devastating draw at that point in the schedule. And the Saints went on the road, and despite the fact that Russell Wilson threw for 400 yards, the Saints won that game 33-27, and everybody perked up a bit. It was like they had to focus and hone in, and they did. Well, similar scenario now. You went on the road. You had a really disappointing loss. You're without one of your star players. Now it's Michael Thomas. Now you're coming home, and you have a giant challenge with Green Bay coming in. And Aaron Rodgers has looked awesome through 2 weeks. So do the Saints laser focus in now with Green Bay coming in on Sunday Night Football? It's a great opportunity for the Saints against an NFC contender to assert itself among the hierarchy in the NFC coming off a really disappointing loss. Our concerns are there, and I don't think there's any question about that. But how valid are they? How much can they alleviate? We'll find out on Sunday night. Short week, quick turnaround for New Orleans, but they don't have a choice. Got to go get this win against Green Bay on Sunday night.